Thanks for joining our special live coverage of South Korea's 50th cabinet meeting of this year. I'm Kim Da-mi in Seoul. In just a moment, we will head over to the presidential office, where President Yoon Suk-yeol will brief the public on his recent diplomatic trips to the United Kingdom and France. His UK state visit came just in time for the 140th anniversary of Korea-UK relations. The meeting is about to start. Let's come back afterwards.
I attended the APEC summit for 4 days and 2 nights from November 15th that was held in San Francisco. And last week from November 20th, for 7 days and 5 nights, I completed a state visit to the UK and France, and I returned home early on Sunday. The 30th APEC summit was held under the theme of creating a resilient and sustainable future for all. And there I said that Korea will take the lead in expanding the use of carbon-free energy, accelerating the transition to eco-friendly transportation, and contributing to reducing the climate gap by actively supporting the climate-vulnerable countries. Also, I emphasized in order to achieve inclusive and resilient economic growth, we have to restore a free trade order in the international community. Korea, with no significant natural resources, grew into a global economic powerhouse because there was a large and reliable playing field named multilateral trade order where companies could play to their heart's content. In addition, I emphasized that amid the global supply chain crisis that has continued for several years, we must quickly establish a supply chain early warning system and strengthen supply chain resilience as a top priority at APEC. APEC accounts for 77% of exports and 67% of imports of Korea's trade, and thus it is significant to build a stable supply chain in cooperation with the member countries of APEC. And I also attended the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework IPEF summit held during the APEC period. At IPEF summit, there were important agreements that was made for sustainable growth for India-Pacific region, especially supply chain, clean economy, and fair economy. These were the areas where a lot of agreements were reached among the member countries, and also a new crisis response network was established. In the region, the resource holding countries and resource consuming countries will come together under a core minerals dialogue that was established where we can come together for discussion. And thus, this will significantly strengthen the supply chain resilience. Opportunities for Korean companies to participate in clean energy infrastructure projects worth over 200 trillion Korean won and government procurement markets in developing countries where transparency will increase have also been secured. Also, using this APEC summit period, the American automobile and semiconductor companies will invest a total of $1.16 billion. And also, the investment is expected to have an export expansion and import effect of more than 4.5 trillion won per year. With this investment, it is certain that foreign direct investment this year will break last year's record, which will stand at the highest ever. And I believe that this will be a great help for the economy. And during the APEC meeting, I met with the CEO of Apple. And Apple is number one in terms of market share around the world, and our companies, Korean companies, account for 30% of Apple's total supply, ranking the second largest parts supplier after the U.S. in the world. And we discussed ways for more Korean companies to participate in the supply for Apple, and as a government, we will do our utmost in supporting this regard. I also held meetings with Peru, Chile, Vietnam, and Japan, and we have expanded cooperation in defense industry, supply chain, and infrastructure with Peru, and we decided to strengthen cooperation in core minerals with Chile, a resource-rich country. With Vietnam, our key economic partner in ASEAN, we reviewed the implementation of the agreements reached during the state visit last June. I also met with Japanese Prime Minister Kishida for the 7th time this year alone, and we discussed in the fields of diplomacy and security, trade, and cutting-edge science and technology. Also, for the future generations, cooperation programs will be expanded, and the exchange in this regard will be expanded as well. And meanwhile, together with Prime Minister Kishida and former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, we visited Stanford University and had a roundtable discussion with the professors and students. And the strengthening of Korea-Japan, Korea-US-Japan cooperation in the future cutting-edge technologies such as AI and quantum technology were discussed. On the occasion of APEC, the Korea-US-Japan Summit meeting that was held 3 months ago in Camp David in August, we had another meeting, and the status of operation of the comprehensive cooperation system established at Camp David was also reviewed. And after APEC, I made a state visit to the UK at the invitation of King Charles III. The UK is the world's 6th largest economy and Europe's 2nd largest economy. In addition, it is a scientific powerhouse that has produced over 130 Nobel laureates, and it is the world's best financial hub. In light of Britain's power and influence in leading the Industrial Revolution, liberal democracy, and market economy, the importance of Korea-UK relations cannot be overemphasized. But until now, we believe that the speed or the intensity of Korea-UK cooperation did not match the importance. And with my visit this time, the Korea-UK relations have been elevated to the highest level of cooperation ever, to a global strategic partnership. In accordance with the Downing Street Accord, Prime Minister Sunak and I signed on an agreement, and according to this, the two countries will be in close strategic cooperation in the areas of defense, security, economics, and finance. And also, the 2+2 meeting between Korea and the UK for the diplomatic ministerial level. This will be linked with the existing 2+2 meeting with the United States and Australia to revitalize cooperation between Korea and the UK. And US, Australia, and the UK, they have an AUKUS agreement body, and Therefore, with these three countries, we will have a regular consultative body of 2+2, which will revitalize the cooperation between the four countries. And also, we recently concluded Korea-UK Strategic Cyber Partnership, the Defense Cooperation Partnership, and Defense Industry Joint Expert MOU, which will greatly increase the level of cyber security and defense industry cooperation between the two countries. And we also agreed to immediately begin the negotiations to improve the Korea-UK FTA. I believe that this will open the door to new markets and opportunities in various product and service fields such as digital, bio, energy, and logistics. We have also established a strong zero-carbon energy alliance encompassing nuclear power, hydrogen, and offshore wind power with the UK. In particular, the nuclear power plant field, a total of 9 MOUs were signed covering the entire cycle of design, construction, operation, and decommissioning. And this will lay the foundation for us to enter the UK's new nuclear power plant project worth 32 trillion won. And I had a chance to speak with top scholars of both countries at the Royal Society of the UK, and it was a great opportunity to gain insight and ideas about science and technology policies. As I mentioned in my inaugural speech last year, science and technology that expand freedom can make rapid progress through international solidarity. And also, in accordance with the Downing Street Agreement, financial institutions of Korea and financial investment companies can enter the London financial market, which is an international financial hub, and this has expanded the Korean financial industry's entry into overseas market. The Korean financial companies were present in the U.S. and in some of other countries overseas, but by this opportunity, we are able to advance in earnest to the London financial market. And London financial market, as you all know, this is an important financial market where a lot of Middle East investment gather. And this agreement commits the UK government to provide us with useful and reliable information about the financial markets. Following the UK, I visited France and had a summit meeting with President Macron for about 1.5 hours. And during this in-depth discussion with President Macron on current issues, we discussed about North Korea's launch of reconnaissance satellite and the situation in the Middle East. And we decided to strengthen strategic cooperation on the international stage, including the UN Security Council. And in particular, between these two countries, we decided to build a strong cooperative relationship in areas as AI, quantum, science, space, defense, and nuclear power. During this trip, whenever time allowed, I spoke with leaders of other countries and each and every countries to appeal for their support for the 2030 Busan Expo. For the past 1.5 years, we were in a one team, the government as well as the private sector, and we ran towards the attracting of Busan Expo, and as a result, we gained more friends in the international community. And also, the world paid attention to the Korea's dynamism and potential of this one team, this very solid one team, and that they were very impressed by our efforts. The Busan Expo for the balanced development of the country and also our
강력히 추진해
rapid
왔던 것이고
growth
또 이를 위해서
were some of the
전
reasons why we
170여 개
were
국가들과
striving for it.
저
And
자신도
with
150개
170 countries around the world, and I myself had meetings with more than 150 leaders around the country to appeal for their support for the expo in Busan. And the members of the cabinet meeting and a lot of
BI 회원국을
our
하나라도 빠짐없이 이렇게
entrepreneurs of Korean companies. We met one-on-one with so many people and so many leaders around the world. And in this progress,
그야말로 글로벌 중추 외교의
global
기조를
backbone diplomacy that our government is striving for is pursuing was really lived during these meetings. And until the final whistle blows around midnight today, the One Team Korea is really running at their utmost at the moment. During overseas tour, the President's office and government ministries visited people's livelihoods and their scenes and listened to the voices of the people on the ground. And a person who runs a small internet shopping mall said as the online market has become increasingly monopolistic, similar companies have gone out of business, and now there are less than half of them left. And that the owner wished and asked for the government to have more emphasis on this and have more attention, pay more attention on this regard. And the young people preparing for employment said that companies want people who have experience, so the government they wanted the government to help them in this regard. A quarantine company working on the bed bug situation, and the person said that the entire nation is so anxious about the bed bugs, but the facilities that are vulnerable to bed bugs, such as studio apartments and these small cell apartments, are not subject to mandatory disinfection, and this will be a loophole in the quarantine endeavors. I ask the cabinet members to always keep in mind that the center of the policy is in the field and the answer lies in the field. Now, December is just around the corner and the bitter cold is approaching. And during these cold times, news of wage arrears heard from the sites is really heartbreaking. This year alone, there have already been more than 220,000 victims of non-payment, and the amount of damage is exceeding 1.4 trillion won. This it has been repeating over more than once, and it accounts for 80% of the total amount. Not receiving wages on time threatens the lives of workers and their families. In particular, there are cases where young people taking their first steps into society are unable to repay student loans or cover their housing costs. The principles of the rule of law between labor and management must be applied fairly to both workers and employers. And our law treats non-payment wages as criminal offense. So I would like to ask the National Assembly to pass the amendment to the Labor Standard Act, which prevents business owners and chronic non-payment from participating in various government assistance projects. And I put them at a disadvantage in public bidding and financial transactions. Along with these sanctions, it is also important to provide support so that workers can receive overdue wages as soon as possible. At the moment, the business owners who would like to apply for government loans to pay back the wages must prove that inventory has increased by more than 50% or sales have decreased by more than 15%. So they have to have the evidence of such conditions and for them to be paid with a government loan. So in order to ease such requirements which are too stringent, we ask to quickly discuss the amendments to the Wage Claim Guarantee Act so that they can apply for the loan more efficiently. Last July, I ordered the rapid removal of killer regulations, so-called that hinder corporate investment decisions. And as the first task, the government has prepared a plan to completely reform industrial complex location for the first time in 30 years. And not only the basic amenities, but the shops and restaurants were absent, and that was the difficulties that they were facing in these large complexes. If there's no place to eat or rest, the laborers or their families are not willing to go there. And if they are not there, then the companies will not seek to move into these industrial complexes. And therefore, the convenience facilities and such basic facilities for workers that prevents the installation of these facilities, the Industrial Location Act, they must be revised as soon as possible. And industries and industrial complexes must also be flexible. The new high-tech industries emerge day by day, and so the appearance of industrial complexes remains, but it remains in the past. So the Industrial Cluster Act must be revised as soon as possible so that high-tech and new industries can enter these complexes and grow together. The sooner the bill is revised, the faster the lives of workers. And investment in industrial complexes must also be made as soon as possible. I ask for the National Assembly's special attention. Just a few days ago, citizens experienced great inconvenience due to the online service failure. The government also responded quickly to restore the system, but this has not happened for the first time. Over the past few years, large and small failures have continued to occur in public service systems. And with this incident, we have to find the root cause of the problem and properly correct it. The public service system accidents, we have to find out if this is an issue of the orders that are split into, that are fragmented, and the frequent replacement of management companies, or whether this is just management problems. We have to have a close look at the deep root cause, and we must keep in mind the possibility of cyber attacks from external sources. And we established a government joint task force in this regard, hosted by the National Security Office, so that we can inspect thoroughly about cyber attacks or any potential of these attacks. To prevent a problem from happening, we have to know the root cause. If this is a security problem, we have to have the security wall high, and if it's a management system, then we also have to have an improvement in the institutional measures. The weather is becoming colder and colder, and in such time, the government must take greater care for the underprivileged and the vulnerable. and we have to be
관계
fast
부처는
in taking care
취약계층
of
난방비
them.
지원을 비롯한
The government
정부의
and all the
대책들이
relevant ministries
현장에서
will once again
제대로
closely monitor
집행되는지
whether the measures, including support for heating costs, are properly implemented in the field. We will take a closer look. Thank you.
예, 지금 이 시간 후 의안 심의는 비공개로 진행됩니다.
That was our live coverage of South Korea's 50th cabinet meeting of this year. If you missed it, you can still catch the highlights on our upcoming newscast at 12 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.